This is WAB's Week in Review. I'm Alex Helmick, managing editor of WAB News, and on this show we look at recent stories from your WAB News team. Today, we start with a case that is getting national attention. An Emory University Hospital patient declared brain dead remains on a ventilator to sustain her pregnancy. Atlanta health providers and advocates are speaking out against Georgia's 6-week abortion law, which they say is forcing this decision. WAB's Jess Mador reported the story.
State law bans abortion after roughly 6 weeks of pregnancy when an ultrasound can detect cardiac activity in an embryo. There are medical exceptions in the ban, including for miscarriage and ectopic pregnancy. But OBGYN Zoe Lucier-Julian says its language is a gray area that can delay treatment, especially for patients with emergency complications.
I know that these laws create an environment of fear, an attempt to coerce us as providers to align with the state, as opposed to aligning with our primary point of accountability, the patients that we work so hard to serve.
In an emailed statement, Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr's office said there's nothing in the law requiring doctors to keep a patient on life support after brain death. But speaking to 11 Alive, the Emory patient's mother, April Newkirk, says that's what happened to her daughter after doctors conducted a scan at the hospital, revealing multiple blood clots.
So they had asked me if they could do a procedure to relieve them, and I said yes. And then they called me back, and they said that they couldn't do it.
Doctors decided to keep her daughter on life support to sustain the fetus, Newkirk says.
And I'm not saying that we would have chose to terminate her pregnancy. What I'm saying is we should have had a choice.
Emory said in a recent statement it supports providers as they make individualized treatment recommendations in compliance with Georgia's abortion laws and other relevant laws. Jess Mador, WABE News.
Well, Governor Brian Kemp this week joined members of the Public Service Commission to advocate for a deal that would pause electricity rate increases right before the commission's long-awaited and stalled election. As WABE's Marissa Mecki reported, it came after a series of rate hikes from the utility giant Georgia Power.
Georgia Power is negotiating a proposal to freeze electrical rates, thanks to increased revenue from new big customers.
Because it is positioning our state to continue to be the number one state in the country for business, and in my mind, the number one state to live, work, and raise our families.
That's Governor Brian Kemp at a State House press conference with Public Service Commission members Lauren Bubba McDonald and Chairman Jason Shaw. 6 bill increases over 3 years have left many residents upset. Kemp says he thinks Georgians and local businesses will find this move a big relief. It's coming right as 2 of the members of the PSC are up for re-election after several years of delays.
The timing to me doesn't matter. We're talking about an upcoming primary election for down-ballot offices that'll have to be decided in November.
The rate filing would typically come this summer, with hearings throughout the fall. The same time frame when commissioners and their challengers will be campaigning for the November election. Critics say they'd prefer Georgia Power continue with the rate hearings and actually propose lowering bills, and that not holding the hearings causes concerns over transparency. But PSC Chairman Shaw assures due diligence is being done.
You know, at the end of the day, we're going to have, as always, an open and transparent process of hearing this agreement. We're going to have the chance over the next few weeks to meet with all the stakeholders.
Even if this plan is approved, it doesn't mean there won't be any bill increases. The commission still has to sort out costs for Hurricane Helene damages, which would happen next year if the proposal passes. Marissa Mecki, WABE News.
The Middle District Court of Georgia is granting some relief to a Venezuelan man held in a Georgia immigration detention center after federal officials who claimed he was in a gang could not prove it. WABE's Emily Wu Pearson explained.
The man was living in North Carolina while going through the asylum process. He had a work permit and a few jobs.
He was just waiting for his next immigration court hearing.
Rebecca Kassler is one of the attorneys with the American Immigration Council representing the man, who's going by the initials YAPA for privacy.
He was already in the system and showing up wherever he was supposed to show up to go through the process to seek asylum in this country.
Then he was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and sent to Stewart Detention Center, accused of being a member of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. The man feared he would get caught up in the Trump administration's deportations to El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act and disappear.
He's not from the part of Venezuela where Tren de Aragua has been active, and he has no connection to Tren de Aragua that we can uncover.
And ICE couldn't prove any gang relationship either. The judge ruled the man could not be removed under the Alien Enemies Act. Now he remains in Stewart Detention Center and has an immigration hearing on his asylum case at the end of the month. Emily Wu Pearson, WABE News.
Hate and extremist groups in the United States, including here in Georgia, are becoming more dangerous even as their numbers go down. That's according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. The SPLC's 2024 Year in Hate and Extremism report says along with a growing nationalist push to promote false claims of white genocide and Christian persecution, the number of groups advocating male supremacy has almost doubled. Rachel Carroll Rivas leads the SPLC's Intelligence Project.
Young people who are exposed to this content are 5 times more likely to believe physically hurting someone is acceptable. And so our research uplifts this problem, but also offers tools on how they can prevent radicalization of youth into these deep and dark spaces.
Rivas says these groups are amplified by self-styled alpha male influencers peddling pseudoscience. The report tracked almost 1,400 total hate groups across the country, nearly a 5% drop from the year before. But researchers say the decline doesn't necessarily mean these groups are losing influence. In fact, it means their ideas, they say, are becoming more mainstream. Well, in a party-line vote, the Fulton County Commission has declined to approve 2 controversial Republican nominees for the local election board. WAB's Sam Greenglass had more.
The county Republican and Democratic parties each nominate 2 members to serve. The Fulton GOP put forward Julie Adams and Jason Frazier. Adams is a current member who sued her own board for the right to vote against certifying election results, sparking a showdown in court ahead of the 2024 election. Frazier has helped lead efforts to challenge the eligibility of thousands of voters. Both have promoted false claims about widespread election fraud. Democratic Commissioner Mo Ivory joined the 4 other Democrats to quash the nominations.
It is, of course, possible to work with the GOP. We do in all of the appointments that we make. It's not possible to work with folks that are trying to sow chaos.
Republican Commissioner Bridget Thorne says the body had a duty to approve the nominees.
If you want trust in our elections, we have to have a board that reflects the wishes of both parties, or else we're in a tyranny.
Adams will hold on to her seat for now, along with the other currently serving Republican, until the commission can consider alternatives. But a legal challenge is also possible. Commissioners unanimously approved the 2 Democratic nominees who will serve through the midterms into 2027. Sam Greenglass, WABE News.
Atlanta arts organizations are reeling as the National Endowment for the Arts cancels funding. City Lights arts reporter Summer Evans had the story.
Earlier this month, Lisa Adler, the co-founder of Horizon Theater Company, received an astonishing email.
I saw it at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh, our grant has been withdrawn. Okay.
It was $30,000 for the theater company's annual New South Young Playwrights Festival, a week-long program for aspiring playwrights and screenwriters. The grant was offered last November, and Adler had already purchased plane tickets and secured accommodations. This is typical, spending the grant before receiving it, then being reimbursed. Adler says the Horizon Theater submitted an appeal, arguing the festival fits the Trump administration's emphasis on skilled trades.
We do fit the new priorities. You know, the New South Young Playwrights Festival is all about workforce training.
Some organizations had already applied for an advance on their funds when they saw the tide shifting in Washington. Ann Dennington is the executive director of Flux Projects.
We had never done that before, but just so that we knew we got them.
Other organizations weren't as lucky. According to Arts Capital Atlanta, a coalition that advocates for the arts, groups have had more than $10 million in grants terminated, including one organization that distributes funds across the South. Laura Hennighausen with Arts Capital Atlanta says she's not sure if or how the NEA will request funds for money already spent.
How do you even deal with that if you've already spent the money and you're an organization that is already maybe running a deficit or at a very tight margin, to have to all of a sudden refund a grant that you had already received for a project you've completed?
This comes at a time when Georgia ranks last in the nation for per capita state arts agency funding. Summer Evans, WABE News.
You're listening to WABE's Week in Review with me, Alex Helmick. Well, hundreds of thousands of low-income Georgians with disabilities rely on Medicaid health insurance, which pays for, among other things, daily help with basic needs like cooking, bathing, and dressing. but proposed federal cuts to Medicaid could upend the services for some of the most vulnerable people across the state as Congress debates hundreds of billions of dollars in potential cuts. Here again is Jess Mador with this look at how Georgians could be affected.
At her small apartment west of downtown Atlanta, Valerie White rests on the couch. Her arthritis makes it difficult for her to do the things she used to do. The 60-year-old says she'd be lost without her sister's help.
Because now, with this arthritis, it's hard to open up my medicine bottles because my hand's not working right now.
White also has schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. She says her sister keeps track of her medical appointments and medications.
If I'm having problems, I say, did I take my meds today?
White's disabilities and low income qualify her for Georgia Medicaid's home care services that also pay for a family caregiver.
I saw the need because my sister was always getting different people all the time.
Kenya Randall is White's sister. She's been a home care worker for more than 2 decades and recently got certified to become White's official caregiver.
Nobody was saying. So I was like, I'll fix that. That's when I got hired through an agency to do the work for her.
The Medicaid agency pays Randall $11 an hour to care for her sister 5 days a week.
I make sure she brushes her teeth, wash her face, help her cook. We walk at the park because she has to be more mobile. It's just her daily, little everyday common things that we do that she doesn't remember to do a lot of times.
Now, Randall worries what would happen to her sister if Congress cuts federal Medicaid funding. Health advocates are worried too. Medicaid covers about 2 million people in Georgia. Nearly 40% have a disability. Congressional Republicans say the Medicaid cuts on the table as part of the Trump administration's larger spending cuts would target waste, fraud, and abuse, but not essential coverage.
They claim that they are not directly cutting eligibility or benefits, even though states are left holding the bag with these cost shifts.
Georgetown University research professor Edwin Park specializes in Medicaid policy. He says the federal cuts to the jointly funded state and federal program would force states to make difficult choices.
Either raise taxes dramatically, cut other parts of their budget, or cutting Medicaid. And that means likely taking away coverage and access from tens of millions low-income kids, parents, seniors, people with disabilities who are on the program today.
Park's analysis tracks with a similar one from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office that's been looking at the proposed cuts. Kenya Randall is back at her sister's apartment and doing some tidying up.
I help her wash her dishes because she don't like using the dishwasher.
The sisters say they're following the news about potential cuts to Medicaid. Valerie White says thinking about it makes her anxious. Her Medicaid gives her peace of mind. She needs the home care services. And without the coverage, her medications would cost more than her rent.
If Medicaid in, how am I pay for my meds? How am I get to the doctor? How am I do this? How am I pay for my doctor visit? If all that's out, I'd be lost and it's stressful.
And Randall says her sister won't be able to remain stable for long without her bipolar and schizophrenia treatment.
It's like meds that help keep her life moving forward to where she's not a danger to herself or other people. It wouldn't be great at all. Some people commit suicide because of her illnesses. It'd be devastating.
It's a message Georgians with disabilities on Medicaid hope reaches lawmakers as Congress debates federal cuts to the program that covers more than 72 million low-income people nationwide. Jess Mador, WABE News.
And finally today, it started with a loss, but there still is a lot of optimism. The Atlanta Dream began their first homestand of the season, taking on WNBA phenom Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever on Thursday night. As WABE's Dormaya Vance reported, fans are excited about the recent new high-profile addition to the team, Brittany Griner.
The Dream took on the Indiana Fever Thursday for a packed-out match at State Farm Arena. Atlanta lost 81-76. This was their second time facing the Fever and phenom Caitlin Clark this season. Earlier this week, the Dream beat them by 1 point. Atlanta picked up Brittany Griner earlier this year while she was a free agent. The 3-time gold medalist and 6-time All-WNBA honoree became a household name a few years ago when she was imprisoned in Russia. Cam Ratliff, who came to the game Thursday, says he has respect for players in the WNBA. He believes picking up BG was a big move for Atlanta.
That's an excellent move. I mean, I don't know how she is right now in terms of stats. I know she was a monster, previously. I hope she continues the same thing here.
Valencia Flagler, who attended the game with her daughter, says she's looking forward to what's to come as the league continues gaining momentum.
I think it's a great opportunity for young ladies. I'm glad it's getting more attention, and hopefully my young lady over here, she want to grow up and play basketball as well.
Atlanta is looking at back-to-back home games this weekend. They'll be back at College Park's Gateway Arena to face off against the Dallas Wings on Saturday, then the Connecticut Sun on Sunday. Dormaya Vance, WABE News.
That's all for the show this week. My thanks to the WABE News team for all the great work. You can get more at WABE.org. I'm Alex Helmick. Thank you for supporting WABE and for listening to The Week in Review.